What a fascinating first half. There's a real energy. I really hope you can feel that wherever you're watching. Welcome to Groundbreakers 2024. I'm Phil Oakley. This is Frankie Hawken. This isn't our day job. We usually work for Prologis out of the UK. Yeah.
And on that note, if there are any agents watching that want to sign us on as clients afterwards, we'll take calls at the end. We're going to be here for the next 15 minutes interviewing amazing members from our audience, getting their thoughts and feelings on the show so far. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our first guest, Mr. Mark Zulver from our EU Prologis business.
Thank you.
My first question to you is, we've seen so many panels, incredible in the first half. Which has been your most interesting or even favourite?
Yeah, so if I'm thinking about the topics that interest me the most, there's a couple of themes that I heard. For example, change, and change is constant. AI, data, and learning. And if I bring that back to the business that I'm running within Prologis Essentials, we are constantly changing our way of selling or our way of helping consulting customers, and also the product suite that we are constantly having under review for change. So yeah, these are the topics where I think, yeah, that resonate the most with me.
Yeah, I completely agree. Data's definitely been a buzzword of the day. Phil, how about you? Who have you got on your side?
This is Tom from THG. Tom, welcome, and thank you for doing a couple of questions. You mentioned when we were speaking earlier on about Fred. He was on the stage talking about how he built FedEx. You said that resonated with you?
It did. First of all, what a guy. He speaks really from a centre of truth, and he doesn't really mince his words, which is kind of the core competencies of what we're about. But ultimately, the one thing that is always constant is change. And also on top of that, the fact that he narrowed it down to make FedEx seem so simple is don't move too far away from your core competencies. Yeah. Now he's honed in on that, and then he's evolved over many, many years through so many different global challenges, and that resonates massively with what we produce within THG and THG Fulfill, because we've created technology, marketing and operational divisions, and because of the explosion of consumer data and the differences in consumer behaviour through the eras, ultimately we have to pivot consistently, and you have to ultimately stick to what you are good at and become world class at that. So massive resonation for what Fred discussed before. Yeah,
sure. That evolution, change or die, really was the message, and both leaders on the stage were talking about that constant change.
Yeah.
Have you got anything specifically that you're focused on for the next 12, 24 months or even further on, selling the future to your people?
Yeah, look, we're always in change. We're a technology business at the core. But ultimately in my area, we've created a new product I want to create a new unicorn within a unicorn. And it's named THG Fulfill. It's snapping out fulfillment and courier services, but with one, obsession, the end consumer. Yep. Because there's not many providers out there that actually understands the dynamic of what the consumer wants. Sure. We get that digital feedback, and then we can utilize all that data, augment decision, in an automated fashion to help change our products and go through an evolution consistently to become one of the world's best providers of that product. Sure. In 14 months, it's up to 100 million. I guarantee it's going to be $1 billion. Sure. I really truly see that. And listening to Fred there, the world's your oyster if you can stick to your core competencies. Yeah.
Absolutely right. But also keeping the customer at the core. There were a number of panelists that said exactly that. Keep in mind what your customer wants and then change to facilitate that.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is a lot of people say it, but not people actually implement and do it. They stick to other targets, which is more commercial to them. Yep. But honestly, if you put the center of the universe around the customer, you generally win.
Yeah. The customer wants everything immediately. Is THG set up for that rapid delivery?
From a service perspective, from an operational perspective, we got our infrastructure is built vertically integrated, so all of the technology and the software is ours. Sure. So we have total control, and control is something we're obsessed with. So if I'm outsourcing too many of those services or integrations, then it becomes fragmented, and I'm not in control of that service, and the end consumer will feel that. So that's why we're, at the forefront, because software is ours.
Sure, so controlling the experience with the customer is pretty key.
Yeah.
Tom, thank you very much. I think we're going to go to our next guest. Frankie?
Yeah. That's right. With me, I've got Chris Moss from Maersk. So Chris, which has been the most relevant panel for you, or has been the biggest takeaway of the day?
Well, it's been a great start today, and so many different sessions to enjoy and take in. But I think really the keynote at the start from Fred and Howard really hit home to me. And I think particularly what was super important today, we've talked about some really big themes, and we've talked about the trend around globalization and deglobalization and localization. I think as well we've touched a lot around AI and technology and how that will evolve for us. But I think crucially the piece for me which really grounded from Fred is the importance of putting the customer at the heart of what we do. And the more and more that we do that, the closer we will get to delivering and making sure that we listen to that most important voice. All of the things we talked about today are enablers to help us to get there, but crucially, if we listen to our customer, we will define the solutions for the future.
I agree. That customer-centric approach is just at the core of every business, and I know it is at Prologis as well, so it's great to hear that was a takeaway for you from today. Phil, who have you got?
So we're going to move from customer to a certain extent. We're going to talk with Sally from Cushman Wakefield. Sally, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Phil.
Data was a word that I heard too many times, perhaps. You deal in data on a daily basis. Doesn't it resonate when you hear that the data is relied on to deliver an organ to somebody that's in real need in the health sector? The data you collect is probably relevant for us from a real estate perspective, but any key points for you there that you'll take away?
Well, I think one of the key things that I took away from the early part of today is that change is inevitable, and that keeping our customers at the center of what we're thinking about and how we respond is vital. So understanding what's important and understanding how to harness the information, how to harness that data to be able to continuously evolve and drive innovation, drive evolution of how supply chains work, and understanding how our customers need to make their supply chains work better, and therefore what the real estate response needs to be. How does the real estate respond? How do we learn that? And data is a crucial part.
But data for data's sake is useless. It's how you use it. And we talked about AI. Yeah. That's another very hot topic at the moment.
Absolutely.
AI to mine that data. Is that something that you've got in mind with your own particular business line and daily job?
Absolutely. We're using our data and analytics team to learn more and more around what our customers are telling us, what our clients need, what their response needs to be, how we better shape the services we can provide them, how we better advise them about what it is that we can help them to do. Understanding and knowledge is the new oil. Data is the new oil.
And it's instantaneous as well.
Absolutely.
You collect it, you record it, you analyze it, and then you implement.
Absolutely. And being forward focused, understanding how the data helps us to better understand what we need to do next.
Sure.
Not just what it tells us about the past.
It's looking around the corner. It's a very unique ability and skill. And when you've got scale, like Cushman Wakefield have, like Prologis has, I wouldn't say it's easier, but there is so many more data points. Where do you start with which bits of information, which bits of data are the right ones to collect?
Well, I'm a great believer in the adage that better too much than not enough.
Okay.
But it is really important to focus on what makes a difference. And listening as much as telling is really important. So understanding what it is that makes the difference, understanding that what's really on the minds of our customers. What are the important things that they see in growth? Yep. What are the things that they see as pain points? Sure. To be able to then respond, collect the right sets of information, analyze it in the right way, and be able to inform and lead and advise.
Sure. And the advisory role next to the AI, so augmented, it's
data
great.
Does a job.
Sure, it does a job.
It's not everything. You need that interpretation and the ability to be able to respond to what the data tells us, to be able to create value.
And make it interesting, of course.
Of course,
yeah. You do that very well. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Frankie?
Well, I've got an incredibly great guest with me. I've got Dennis Boyle, one of the founders from EDIO. Groundbreakers in itself is an absolutely incredible event. It's awe-inspiring. So what would be your takes that the audience should do to kind of learn from this and learn what we're doing here?
Well, this luckily is my fourth Groundbreaker. Wow. And I found this just an inspiring conference. It's like a mini TED conference that I've gone to a number of times, and it's kind of tied together. It just brings all these innovators together in all these different industries that are tied together because everybody has to have a foundation of logistics for delivering services and goods, and it's amazing. I'm really inspired. The thing I really took away a lot from this morning was listening to Hamid and Fred Smith. And what I heard over and over is their teams they've been at it for 40 or 50 years. Their teams have to engage with change every day. And somehow, if they don't, they've got to get new teams or they got to move on. So that I relate to that as being at IDEO for 45 years now. That's just at the forefront of innovation. You have to help companies, you have to help yourself, you have to be at the forefront of change and embrace change, because otherwise other people are going to do it and not you. So anyway, I like I say, it's been an inspiring conference. The healthcare side is coming right up, and I'm responsible for helping a few of those line up. So it's going to be, you should watch that. It's going to be great. So anyway.
I'll definitely be watching that. I agree with you. Logistics is a thread that ties all of this together, and so many people are unaware of that as a sector being so core to everything that's going on. But I do think we've got one last guest. So Phil.
Thank you, Frankie. I'm delighted to be joined by Westy. Westy works for Prologis in the UK. Westy, thank you for joining. One of the things that we've just talked about off camera was the thing about culture, building the right culture. Both of the leaders on the stage, Hamid and Fred, talked about. Your thoughts?
I've got to say, that was really inspiring way to get things going today.
Yeah.
I think hearing Fred talk about FedEx, a business that is in 220 countries, and how they use the values of that country, but then it's around how those values deliver culture through the way the businesses operate.
Sure.
And we're very used to hearing Hamid talk about culture at Prologis, and we know how important that is, to the business globally, to our UK business, that you can have this culture that is global in terms of those values, but you still need to apply it locally as well to make sure that you're really delivering, in the case of us, for our customers, for our investors, and really driving our company on.
Yeah, it's having an aspiration that everybody can get behind and work towards. That's a pretty key thing. How do you do that with the team in the UK?
I think for us, I think it doesn't stay still, and there was a huge amount of talk about change and everything that goes with that. So if the moment you stop, you just don't want your code out moment. So for us in the UK, it's around how do we keep pushing, how do we keep doing a bit of continuous improvement, but also when we get a chance to innovate, how do we do those little things that bit better every day? And if we can get our team working like that, then that gives us the best chance of success.
And it's a broad team with broad experiences, different backgrounds. It's multicultural. That's a really key part of building that culture, getting ideas from everywhere.
I mean, when I look at our UK business and how we interact with our colleagues in Europe or in Japan recently around multi-level buildings, and hear about the experiences of colleagues in the US as well, it's amazing how our business joins in that way.
Yeah, okay, thank you. We're going to change tack a little bit. You've got daughters. You've got a son as well. But
yeah,
they are in the
I believe
thrift
so,
generation, yeah? They might not feel it on a monthly basis, but they are in the thrift generation.
Yeah, I've got to say, hearing Andy talking about those 15 to 25-year-olds, all my children are in that, my 3 children are in that level, or that age group. And my eldest daughter, during COVID, honestly, it was a procession of white vans up the drive from all these brands, Boohoo, Misguided, ASOS, wherever, just coming up. Actually, her the way she shops, and actually how it's gone to my middle daughter and now to my son, they are all buying good quality things, but they're pre-loved, pre-used, pre-owned. And in that age group, that is massive. And just hearing how that works in brands now like Rolex, for example, whereas Rolex now own their resale, and you can see how valuable that's becoming to businesses.
Absolutely. Look, it's the way of the future. It's moving in that direction, and your kids are the first ones perhaps through that hoop. Westy, thank you very much indeed. Frankie, wasn't it great to hear from some of our audience members? I bet you're really looking forward to the second half.
I cannot wait for our second half. It is going to be an absolute treat. Particularly, I'm looking forward to Bear Grylls. But audience at home, I do need you to do me a little favour. So, you're going to need to go to LinkedIn Part 2. That means that you can continue watch the rest of the show. You'll find it at Prologis LinkedIn. And we've got a lineup. Not only have we got loads more panels, but we've also got an exclusive conversation with Tony Blair. Now, Phil, will you give me a clue as to your favourite?
I won't just now. I know my 3 sons at home are really looking forward to Bear Grylls. But you'll have to join me at the end of the show to find out which was my favourite session.
You're being a little tease today.
Talking about teas, do you fancy a cuppa?
Yeah, and I hope there's tiny sandwiches.
Let's hope so. See you in part 2.